And really, I think the first thing we need to talk about is, should you do local wholesaling real estate or virtual wholesaling real estate? Now, if you're outside the United States, virtual wholesaling is just what you got to do. I'm just letting everybody know. Remember, I do have a free wholesaling course, freewholesaling.com. I think everybody knows that. But the real question here is, okay, in wholesaling real estate, if I'm in somewhere in the United States, should I go local or should I go virtual? And so that's the first thing we need to talk about first. And then we got to break down exactly, once you decide if you should go virtual or local, sure you should do. And if you're doing local wholesaling, this is going to be a great video for you, because you're going to have to deal with sellers. I want everybody to know this. If you're locally wholesaling, you're going to have to still virtually wholesale, because you're going to deal with sellers that have a house in your local market, but they live out of state.
Especially in Florida.
Hint, hint, probates, right? Anywhere, right? And so the truth is, you're going to have to learn how to do virtual wholesaling, especially when the seller is in another state or heck, another country we've done deals from, right? And so that's why it's important to watch this video, even if you're not doing virtual wholesaling. So here's the question. Here's everything, everyone asks, like, okay, Zach, I want to go out here. I got to figure out, should I do full-time virtual, full-time local? Which one's the thing? Which one should I do? And honestly, the only question you need to ask yourself, first of all, should I do virtual or local? And you can go roast me about my handwriting. I know I got terrible handwriting.
You should have been a doctor.
But hey, I'm a doctor of wholesaling, right? So should you go virtual or local for wholesaling, right? The honest truth is, you got to ask yourself this two-pronged step question, right? Step number one, right? Is your population, okay? Is it under 50,000 for your city or 100K for the county, right? Ask yourself that. Is it like any of these two? If it is under 50,000, I would consider virtual wholesaling. The reason why I'll tell you to consider that starting out is because, unfortunately, just how the way populations work, more people that are living in a place, the higher demand it is for flippers and landlords, right? This is why it's harder to sell a house when there's 1,000 people living in there and there's no grocery store 16 miles, like you got to go 16 miles to go to a grocery store. That's why those prices are actually way lower. They're less desirable and they're actually harder, and they sit on the market a lot lower. Now, if I'm in Dallas and I'm kind of in the city of Dallas, it's actually pretty easy to sell a deal there, right? Now, there's obviously areas that are good or not bad, but like if you have a lower population, it's going to be harder to find cash buyers, and that makes it very difficult, right? Now, on top of that too, when you're going out here and you got to think of the next part here, it's like, okay, population's important, but there's also one more factor, right? Like, oh, I just go to LA, I live in LA. This is perfect, right? Unfortunately, price is going to be what we call the average price per house, right? Literally, I did a AI video. You can go literally look on Tuesday on it, right? And I'll show you what they just search median home price on Zillow for the city you're talking about where you live, and it will tell you exactly if it's good or bad, right? I would say, as of this video, if your average median price point is 400K or below, you are going to be good. Do local. But if it's over that, go virtual. Okay. So that's the first truth we got to talk about. All right. Like if your median home price, so the Goldilocks zone is if we can get over that 100K for the county, that's a great market. And if it's 400K and below, that's a great market. So you might ask yourself, oh no, Zach, I'm in Miami. Miami's kind of on the bubble. Let's say I'm in New York City, where it's 700K and there's 5 million people. Unfortunately, you already hit one of them where you just can't do it. And so now I have to go virtual. And so here's the next question, right? Here's the most common one. What market should I choose? What virtual market? Look, I just told you what it was, right? It's the same criteria to see if you have a good market for your own business, right?
Yeah.
What's
straightforward.
What's the population and what's the median home price? Literally, I did the math. I think there's over, 300 counties, I believe, where the population is over 100,000, the median home price is below 400,000. You can ask AI to do all these things, right? And it'll break it all down for you. This is why it's very, very important for you guys to figure this stuff out. This is why when you're looking at if you should do a virtual wholesaling market or a local wholesaling market, like which one you should do, my honest opinion, if it's not in these criteria, go virtual. And when you want to go find a market, pick any market like this. You can actually look at data and all the other stuff for that. And that's really going to help you out really, really well. And so that's the truth. So when we are starting out in wholesaling real estate, when we're going out here and we got to figure out, should I go virtual, local, where I should do everything, it's going to be all about what market you're going to do. And that is the very important part here, right? And that's it, right? I get everyone like, oh, but I'm in, I see a comment here. I know I'm in Dallas. It's super competitive. Good. Good. It's competitive. There's a lot of cash buyers and there's a lot of people making millions of dollars in Dallas. The one thing I want everybody to know, if you're in a market or you go into a market and think there's people, like your mindset is probably going to be the most important part. And if you're in the mindset that it's a very saturated market, you're already screwed. I want you to understand you are already screwed up.
Yeah, because most of you guys, you either got word through some sort of social media, or maybe you had one or two deals where you had competition and you've decided your entire market is now saturated. And honestly, if that's what you believe, I guarantee you're going to fulfill it. So you got to start looking at like the data you look at. Me and him are in like a ridiculously saturated market. We don't care. It just means you got to step your game up, and you've got to help people in a lightning speed fashion. So, but with the competition comes more cash buyers, more inventory, more opportunity. The minute you say your market's saturated, you're done. Now, the really cool part is if you're in one of these very high price market, it doesn't mean only do virtual. You can always do local markets, but it's going to be hard to do 3, 5, 7 deals a month in say like San Francisco, Manhattan, or downtown Miami. Now, when an opportunity comes up, you already know the market. If you're prepared and you already got experience through your virtual market, that's going to allow you to do both markets. One's got to be opportunistic. The other one's, you're going to have to treat it like a conveyor belt and keep it going and going. And with that, you're going to get a ton of experience.
And just remember, if a market's saturated, there's a reason why it's saturated, because it works.
Exactly. Right? So we keep talking about how negative it is for a saturated market.
There are some negatives to it, obviously, but honestly, the way I try to find markets that are not saturated, like when I'm trying to get into a market, because I don't like other wholesalers being in there, but that's a very niched out thing. If you're in a local market, it's still, there's pros and cons to a saturation, right? And so I did virtual wholesaling. I figured out this little city where not a lot of people were wholesaling, but it actually worked out really, really stinking well. And it was Knoxville, Tennessee. Nobody was really wholesaling there too much, right? And there's a ton of deals. Now it is though, right? And so you got to figure out markets that have a lot of deals, but there's also not a ton of wholesalers, because that's just an unfair advantage. Now, if I go into Atlanta, I don't really have an unfair advantage, right? I'm going to make a ton of money there, but I don't have this unfair advantage where if I spend 10 grand, I'm probably going to get 100K in deals. If I spend 10 grand, I'll probably get 100K in deals in Atlanta. If I spent 10 grand in Knoxville, I'll probably get $150,000 in deal. That's the little arbitrage that works a lot better for me. And then obviously word comes out, the market works a lot. It's crazy. So here's the question now. How do I find my first deal in virtual wholesaling real estate? Not a lot of time. I got to do it quick. What's the thing to do? You have to understand one simple equation. There's one easy, simple equation that will change your mind forever about getting a wholesaling deal. So what is a wholesaling deal? All right. A wholesaling deal, to find one, it's one equation. Okay. I'm like Albert Einstein with my one equation to do all this. Okay. I figured this all out. It's fascinating the way you look at it, but finding a wholesaling deal comes down to two things. And when everybody comes to me and says, Zach, I can't find a deal, it's so difficult to find a deal. Finding wholesaling deals is just so hard and stressful, and I just can't do it. And it's it's the worst. I just can't find deals. I shut a lot of people up and say, hey, let me ask you two questions. And this is the equation for it. Okay. Finding a wholesaling deal. And if you haven't had a wholesaling deal and you're struggling right now, this is the equation for you. How much volume have you put down on your marketing? It's all about volume. Now that's the first part. How much volume? How many calls? How many texts? How much direct mail? How many reverse trying for dollars leads are you doing? Like, it's all about volume, right? That's first and foremost. But here's the problem. I get a lot of people that say, oh, I did 10,000 calls. Volume's not going to be the only thing that leads to success, okay? You can do 1 million calls. And if you do 1 million calls of realtors, you're not really going to get a deal. It's volume times quality, all right? I know it's a really simple thing to think about, but when you keep this really simple, it changes it out. And the cool part about volume and quality, I want you guys to understand that it's interchangeable. What do I mean by this? If you have a lack of volume, so if you are not able to do a lot of volume, all you got to do is just bump up the quality of your lists. So you only have 2 hours, maybe let's call it an hour a day for marketing. Obviously, you don't have much volume you can do, right? You can't pump out a ton of leads, but if you cold call for an hour a day of probates, which is really high quality, you have a pretty good chance of getting the deal. Now, on top of that, let's say that you can't really get the best quality leads, right? Like you don't have all this time to go out here and you don't want to do all the crazy quality leads. All you have to do is just bump up the volume. And a bunch of volume will punch out a bunch of deals. So for example, so let's talk about doing wholesaling deals. It's actually a really stupid, simple equation. Okay. How much are you going to make this month? Okay. So all I can do in virtual wholesaling, I can calculate this in our own business. This is really easy. Okay. My virtual wholesaling business. Okay. Wholesale biz. All right. If I have to calculate what I'm going to do, all I have to do is do this equation. This is really simple. All right. That's why it's a plug and play thing. This is why I love this so much. If I want to see how much money I'm going to make cold calling probates, I know pretty much 400 or 500 probate leads is going to land me a pretty big deal, right? For virtual wholesaling, right? I'll say 35K in a virtual wholesaling market, right? And so that means if I have probates as the plug in here, right? This is for our market, our systems, right? And I'm going to pop in, let's say 1,000 calls is my volume. That's probably going to lead me to about 70K in deals, right? Now, and then let's add the probate mailers too. Let's call that about 70K in deals, right? That works pretty good. Now, unfortunately, let's say we change this though, okay? Let's say we change this list to vacants. I'll tell you right now, there's probably about a 30% chance of a $15,000 deal, right? Because it on average takes about 3,000 to 4,000 direct mail pieces and calls to get a vacant deal when it comes to virtual wholesaling. And so when we plug and play here and we're trying to understand how do I get my first virtual wholesaling deal, you got to ask yourself, what quality list am I going to pull and how much volume am I going to do on that? This is all marketing is all about. How much volume am I going to do to get a deal and how good of a quality list are we going to get? That's all you have to ask yourself, right?
Yeah, it's
simple. A lot of people overcomplicate it.
Yeah. Volume cures a lot, but if you're just going to make 5,000 realtor phone calls, there's much better lists to do. Technology's changed. More people are educated about this, but you still have to put in that effort, and that's never going to be replaced. There's no AI, there's no software that's just going to take the volume game out of it for you. So don't ever forget it.
Yeah. And this is about how to get your first deal. But like when we look at our business, right? So if I want to make $1 million a month, theoretically, I can just pull like 100,000 probates in my own market. There's not 100,000 probates in my market.
You're not going to get it.
So because I can't get the quality, I have to pump up the volume, vacants, high equity, things like that. And so that's what we're talking about. Now let's get into the marketing side, right? Like we got no money. We want to get some deals right. Virtual wholesaling marketing, right? What do we do here? Honestly, it's actually a pretty simple equation. It all comes down to lists, right? And marketing channels. That's it. And I've said this a million times in this business, for wholesaling real estate in this business, but lists and marketing channels is all what marketing is about. Okay. It is the rod and reel. It's the bait and the rod and reel of fishing, right? You can have the best bait in the world, but if you have a terrible rod, it's going to snap in half. You might have the best rod in the world, but if you have no bait, no one's going to go bite it, right?
You got to get a bite first, man.
Yeah. So that's the point. You have to have both of them have to be good. One can't be amazing and one can't suck. They have to be both really good. And it's all about the quality list too. So there's 3 types of lists out here I've always recommended. Okay. There's what I call government lists, right? And these are basically, let's talk about lists really quick. Okay. Really, there's the government lists, which are going to be, the code violations, going to be probates, tax liens, and just do liens in general, right? You do the arrest record list. I'm trying to do this, the arrest list, eviction. Like I can go on and on,
Fire damage,
so
water shut off.
You just go to freewholesaling.com. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this right here.
That's a reason we recommend these lists, because they actually work.
And so here's the thing. You can get government lists. That's the first and foremost one. On top of that too, I used to call them free lists. Like I used to just call them free lists, but they're called government lists now. Unfortunately, there's a lot of these companies popping up everywhere that are quote, free list softwares, and the data just sucks. Okay. I can tell you right now, if you're going to a provider that gives you free data, it sucks. Okay. So for example, there's places out here that you go to a website and they'll give you the probate list. All right. I'll call it a quote probate list from a free software.
Mm-hmm.
I've tested it out. I've pulled the actual probates in my city and the probates they've had. They were old, outdated, and the list sucked. You know why? Because when you skimp on data, because you're giving it out for free and you don't want to drop the amount of money that it actually takes to do it, your data is going to suck. For example, why do you think PropStream and Batch, they drop millions of dollars every single year? And I'll be close to about $1 million every single month. Like a huge portion of the revenue the reason why they charge is because they use pretty much a lot of that money to get in the best data possible. And when you cheap out on it, guess what happens? The data sucks. And you know who gets hurt? You. That is why. Like the reason why I tell you this is because if you go do a PropStream list and then you go like a free listing and you get the free listing and you use the same skip tracing, your skip tracing is only as good as the list you get. And if your list really sucks, that $99 you saved this month on PropStream is null and void because you spent probably $1,000 on terrible data that you have to throw away. It comes down to volume and quality.
Yeah. And it's the time you put into it. So I've been doing lists for 21 years, and I'm here to tell you, even when I switched from ListSource to PropStream, I waited 1.5 years until even paying 1.5 years to, and by the way, PropStream was substantially cheaper and it was much more robust. But remember, if I do direct mail or I do cold calling, my cost of mailing, the skip trace, plus all the time and energy I put in it, if you skimp on the list and say, oh, I got this free, it's not free. It's going to cost you an absolute fortune because you got to redo everything all over and it gets really expensive. Honestly, guys, the data is like the cheapest part, but I only use data I 100% trust and I've personally gotten deals from. Technically, you can get a deal from like anyone's data, but we talked about these probate services. When I first started probates, it sounded so perfect. Someone was going to hand deliver in my inbox all the leads, do everything for me. I never got one stinking deal out of it. And I was paying $350 a month just for one county. Now, here's the exception. On the government list, if you can get them direct from the source, it is phenomenal. It's technically not free because you got to put a lot of time and energy into it.
You have to earn the list.
You're going to have to earn that list. But I'm just telling you guys, if you go and get free data, if you think you saved $99 by doing it, if you spend 30, 50, 60 hours cold calling, spend thousands on mailing, and even texting and skip tracing, you find out the list is not really that great. It's going to the $99 is going to be it's going to cost you thousands. So I'm just telling you, only use trusted sources that have years in the business because data is extremely important. And if you screw the data up, I don't care how much volume you do, it's not going to make up for bad data.
This is a really important part, okay?
Yeah.
When you go and talk to big wholesalers that do a lot of deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
They use the best of the best list providers, right? And when you talk to the top people that get the best data, and they have YouTube channels and all these things, right? Some, they sell courses and stuff, but like they still run 100K a month businesses that make millions of dollars every single year. There's like these free softwares that not one person making over 100K a month in wholesaling promotes them, or they don't talk about it. You know why?
Why?
Because they've all tried it behind the scenes and they all suck and they never talk about it. That is why I get asked all the time, should I do this free software that'll pull the lists for me and it's all free? There's not one person that's a 7-figure wholesaler that talks about that. You know why? Because it sucks. Absolutely sucks. Okay. I get people, try to tell me, should I use this insert trash name skip tracing company that's owned by a guru? And I'm like, does no other person does any big wholesaler ever talk about that they use it? No, never. You know why? Because they've all used it. Guys, I've tried the free wholesaling software. It sucks so bad that I hate for you to guys be like, okay, it's free, I'm going to go use it. Come back to me and you say, I use this. Why isn't it working? I get it all the time because your data sucks. Guys, when I talk about quality and volume, when you skimp out on quality of your list, when you're going to go pay for a list, it sucks. Like it drives me crazy, but guys, don't skimp out on quality for $99. If you have no money, get a list you have to earn. And so the one thing I want you guys to understand when I say this, the reason why I say this is the quality of a list, all right? The quality of a list is directly in proportion, is equal to how hard it is to get. I want you to understand that. It's not about how much money you spend on it, okay? This is the important part. It's not how much money you spent getting the list. It's how hard it is to get that list. Very important. When I'm an average Joe wholesaler and I can go pull a vacant property list by just paying for PropStream or Batch, it's not as big of a quality as a probate list because it's harder to get a probate list than a vacant list. That means there's less saturation with that type of list and there's more motivation. And so that's why it's really important when you get this. And so when I say using a free software, when you compare it, it's insane. And so the quality of lists is in proportion to how hard it is to get the list too. And it depends how good the quality it is. And so what are the other type of list outside of government lists you can pull, right? There's really only two others. There's the other ones which are called the paid lists, right? These are the software providers that spend millions of dollars paying for this information, right? They have the vacants. They have high equity, which is pretty good, right? They have a bunch of other decent ones. One thing I really like is you can actually stack them pretty easy. So I can kind of mix high equity. I can mix duplexes only, stuff like that. It works very, very well. And so a lot of paid lists, they're kind of under the listrei.com one and then the Zach data. If you don't have the money for it, don't do it. Go back to government lists. I tell everyone, okay? Go back to it. This is kind of more of a volume game, right? But some people have to do it. So I completely get it. Really, I would say if you're getting an SMS or you're using a dialer, I'd probably use the paid list provider on there, but it's definitely changing. And the last one, the utmost number one quality list you can possibly get is what we call earned lists. Okay, these are called earned lists. These are lists you have to earn. You can't go out here and, pay somebody for it or click a button to get it. Like you got to actually go out here and get it, right? This is going to be your reverse drawing for dollars and you're drawing for dollars. These are earned lists. You have to earn them. You can't go out here and cry about it and, ask for it. It doesn't work like that. You have to go out here and do that. On top of that too, this can be a door knocking list too of just ugly houses. And that works pretty well too, right? You can just door knock them, but these are earned lists. right? You got to go earn it.
It's listen, you guys know what I say. You're going to get resistance. How do you beat resistance? You just overcome it with persistence. And persistence is about not taking no for an answer and just keep continuing the conversation. I think me and Zach are the only ones in the wholesaling industry that teaches you how to get these lists. Now, I know there's a lot of traffic going towards these lists. It's because they work. So we're talking about saturation, a lot of people chasing on the list. If you go over to freewholesaling.com, we teach you in depth. And honestly, I've done a ton of videos on this. You just got to learn your rapport and conversation skills and use this when getting these earned lists. And if you do it, the harder the list is, the better off for you. Because if you can overcome it and do it, there's not many people that are going to make that kind of effort or initiative to get it done. So you might as well just get the hard work out of the way. Earn lists, don't overlook it. And you're like, well, Rick, they're free. No, they ain't free. You are going to earn them. Like, honestly, it would be cheaper in essence to pay for it because the time and energy you're going to have to do to get that list, that's why they're so valuable. And you got to understand, the easier somebody hands you the list, the more I'm like, I just assume 500,000 other people are looking at the same list. So if you go out with these earn lists, they're phenomenal. If you use some of the trusted paid sources, but remember, we never recommend something until we've gotten tons of deals off it and we've verified everything. And by the way, I've tried so many services and I constantly testing them out. I'll let you know when one pops off. And I got to tell you, there's clear front runners. So the ones we recommend are the ones that we do. And if I change, I'll be the first one to raise my hand. I'm always open to something better. But I don't want someone just to come in and go, oh, hey, I just want to grab market share. Hey, take this list. Because I'm going to have to test that list. So if you're going to do that list, I would split test it. So pull the same list you're going to pull off PropStream or Batch and run it from there.
Yeah, exactly. And so the question might be getting like, wait, Zach, how do I reverse drive for dollars virtually? This is a virtual wholesaling video, right? Guys, there's a reason why I mentioned earn list. You can still do earn list virtually, right? So let's get into some channels, right? So how do I do reverse driving for dollars? That's the first question, right? You obviously can't do it yourself, Everybody knows that, but you can find someone that can. And this is a big secret, right? This is huge secrets that nobody talks about in this business. But if you go out here and reach out to people in the comments of videos like this, you can go out here and comment on Facebook groups, you can DM people and just look for somebody that maybe they can reverse drive for dollars for you, but they don't want to call. There's a lot of people that don't want to cold call. They hate cold calling with a passion. And let's say they only have 5 hours a week for marketing and they hate cold calling, they'll reverse drive for dollars all day. They live in like, let's say Chattanooga and you're in, I don't know, Finland. You can go find them and guess what happens? If you find 10 of these people, guess what happens? You agree to split it 50-50. That means you have 50 hours a week of people reverse trying for dollars for you going to your phone number. That's pretty gangster, right? Your phone. Now, obviously you have to split the deals, but if you have 50 people doing that, 10 people doing 50 hours a week, that's a really good arbitrage, right? And so that's why I tell everybody, network in the comments. Go out here and let people know who you are, where you're at, what your virtual market is. And if you have anybody that wants to drive for dollars with you, split it 50-50. It's amazing. They literally just put the sticky note out. That's all they do. And then you close the deal, you do it all, and you split the deal 50-50, but they're doing work that you can't get. Same thing in driving for dollars, right? Mm-hmm. It's a powerful tool, and it's technically JVing, but nobody ever talks about this. If I can connect virtual wholesalers outside the United States with people who are inside the United States that are beginners that need somebody to go kind of do a lot of the cold calling and the harder work for them that they don't want to do, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually brilliant. It works.
I'm telling you, it works really, really stinking well. On top of that too, when you're doing virtual wholesaling, right, cold calling is probably going to be the biggest one, right? A lot of people have this negative connotation of cold calling. You can call it, seller outreach if you really want to change the name for it. I think it has a bad connotation. I really do. People, cold calling, they flip out. But if I call it seller outreach, you guys don't get stressed out. So it's like, call it whatever you want in your head. But I'm telling you, cold calling is still the best thing.
We are not changing labels on this show.
No, but I'm just saying you can call it whatever you want. But like, here's the thing. A guru is going to say, oh, you should do seller outreach method. It's just cold calling, but they changed the name. It makes you feel better, right? Whatever you want, right? On top of that too, SMS is a really good platform too. You can do it actually just on your own phone if you want. Right? I'll tell you 50 texts a day, even if you have no money, you can still do it for free. And now obviously you can do like smszach.com or something like that if you're gonna do a lot bigger ones. But honestly, it's up to what you want to do. On top of that too, you can kind of do that JVing method we talked about before. And then you can also just find people that locked up deals and they need help, right? Oh no, like what do? It flips people out. And the last one, you just kind of do what we do, direct mail. I love direct mail too, but obviously reverse strong for dollars direct mail, you can send direct mail pieces. That's not going to be the main way to get deals when you're doing virtual wholesaling real estate.